The Korean economy grew at its fastest pace in nearly 2 years in the third quarter of this year, bolstered by a recovery in consumer spending and a pickup in facility investment.
So, is this a sign that the Korean economy is breaking out of a low-growth trend? For the answer and more, we connect live to our Hwang Ji-hye at the Arirang News Center. So, Ji-hye, what did the third quarter growth look like?
Hello, Ganyang Daniel. The Bank of Korea said Friday that the nation's gross domestic product rose 3.3% in the July to September period from a year earlier, the first time that growth has topped 3% since the end of 2011. The economy grew 1.1% compared to the second quarter when it gained at the same pace. That is significant because the economy's quarter-on-quarter growth remained below 1% for more than 2 years until early this year. Perhaps even more noteworthy is the fact that the recovery largely came from a rise in facility investment and improving domestic demand. Facility investment rose 1.2% in the last quarter after a 0.2% fall in the April to June period. Private consumption rose 1.1%, quickening from a 0.7% gain in the second quarter. This is encouraging as the Korean economy relies heavily on exports and less so on domestic demand.
Now, Ji-hye, however, it's undeniable that the third quarter growth was actually also helped by government spending, which will run out later this year. So could this perhaps cause the Korean economy to fall short of the BOK's growth projection for this year and next?
Well, Korea's construction investment, mainly driven by government policies, as you said, rose 2.7%, serving as a major engine for the third quarter growth. Experts say, however, that the Korean economy will likely reach the central bank's growth projection of 3.8% next year, as the growth coming from government spending could be replaced by a recovery of the global economy next year.
As world economy turn around next year, I think Korea will maintain the export growth, will achieve like a 3.8 growth in 2014.
But Korea's exports dropped in the third quarter, Gia, so how can that be explained?
Daniel, the nation's exports, which account for half of the nation's GDP, as you said, dropped 0.9% from the previous quarter, following a 1.8% expansion in the second quarter. The central bank explained that the drop was the result of there being fewer working days in September due to the national holiday Chuseok. And while some say the recent trend of the strong won could hurt the nation's exports, experts aren't as sure.
Compared to the past, the foreign exchange rate has less of an impact on Korea's economy. That's because the nation's large companies that lead exports have spread their production facilities around the world.
So basically, the general consensus seems to be that the Korean economy is showing signs of escaping from the low growth trap, right?
Yes, Kanyang. Finance Minister Hyun Oh-seok, in fact, has also said that if the Korean economy maintains its 1.1% growth in the fourth quarter, it could post a growth rate of 2.9% this year, which would exceed the Finance Ministry's earlier forecast of 2.7%. The central bank also said last week that economic performance in the third quarter is in line with its forecast of 2.8% growth for all of this year. Still, experts say that the U.S. budget standoff and the planned stimulus tapering could have a negative impact on the Korean economy next year.
Okay, thank you for helping us connect the dots on that topic, Hwang Ji-hye. That was our Hwang Ji-hye reporting live at the News Center.